and functional vocational evaluations, all of which fall under the 5 areas that counselors are required to provide students with disabilities. We just name them differently because for whatever reason in the disability world, we can't ever coordinate so that things are all the same. So in the voc rehab world, the 5 areas that are required are job exploration counseling, and that can be us assisting with setting up a job shadow, helping the students utilize South Dakota My Life if we're able to get connected with that. Counselors have access to some other curriculums called Virtual Job Shadow and eTrack, which helps with workplace readiness tools and skills that students need to be successful on the job. We can do situational assessments, and that's where if a student might be interested in a job, we can maybe line up an employer in the community to just go and have them volunteer for a couple hours or a day or two, just so they get that hands-on experience to see if that's something that they'd really like to pursue, or if it's something like, no, this isn't what I thought, let's move on to something else, and then we can explore other job opportunities in the community. Some other things, exploring labor market and wage information, helping with figuring out what sort of programs or trainings might be most appropriate for that student based on their employment goal on their IEP. So there's a lot of activities that we can do under job exploration counseling. The second activity is work-based learning experiences, and that's where project skills comes into play, or it could be an employer-paid work experience. Maybe they don't need the project skills, but they need some support on a job that the employer has already hired them for. We can assist with that. We can let them know about career fairs, or maybe even setting up like an informational interview with an employer in their community so that they can talk to them and get more information there. The third activity that we're required that falls under pre-ets is counseling on opportunities for enrollment in comprehensive transition or post-secondary educational programs at institutes of higher education. So that could be talking about local 18 to 21 programs in their area to see if that's something that the student could benefit from. It could be, they could maybe benefit from a project search program that's in their area. Encouraging the attendance at TSLP's Catch the Wave event so that they learned those differences between high school supports and college or VOTEC supports. Setting up tours at different VOTECs or colleges that they're interested in, and exploring that post-secondary higher institute. So what all is required of the FAFSA? How do you apply for those? Which school is going to offer the program that aligns with their employment goal on their IEP? Those are all different activities that counselors can assist students with. Workplace readiness training to develop social skills and independent living. Every year, the division puts out a request for proposals for summer camps for educational co-ops, schools to apply for, where they can get money from voc rehab to pay for these summer camps that focus on self-advocacy. It focuses on getting those workplace readiness skills, independent living skills, different things like that. The new request for proposal will be going out at the end of November. So take a look at that. If you want to be sure that you're on my list to get that that notice when it gets out, shoot me an email. I'll put my email in the chat here in a little bit. Shoot me an email and I'd be happy to send that to you directly when it's out. November 30th is when that'll be going out, so take a look for that. But it could be the counselors coming into talking to your class about what are the skills needed to be a good employee, showing up every day and on time, having that positive attitude, what to do when you're sick, how do you call in sick, or if you're not going to make it to your shift. Just those basic skills. Counselors can help students learn what those are so that they can be better employees down the road. And then finally, the last area is that instruction and self-advocacy. So making sure that they know how to disclose their disability on a job, how they can stand up for themselves and express what their needs are, and supports that they would like to see on a job or at post-secondary, so that they have the best chance of success. All the counselors have been trained to utilize person-centered thinking, so those are great tools that we use to get to know the students, to really help them find their voice so that they can be an active member or an active participant in their VR case. So all of these activities that voc rehab counselors are required to do to their students, you guys are already doing it. So we would love to coordinate more with you guys on providing these services. So please reach out to your counselor that that covers your school district, and I'll put the link. There's a list on the DHS website, and I'll put that link in here that lists every single school throughout the state, who their counselor is, who their TSLP, also their SBVI counselor. If there's a visual impairment, there's an SBVI counselor that would be more appropriate for them to work with. But your voc rehab counselor would be a great person to get started, and then they can kind of direct you. If VR isn't able to help, maybe it's SBVI that can help, or whatever it may be. So feel free to reach out, and again, feel free to reach out to me too. I'm happy to help get the students the services that they need to be successful adults once they leave your classroom. So are there any questions right now? I know Cindy mentioned that there's a couple counselors that are going to talk about the virtual job shadow and the e-track, different programs that are available for VR clients. But does anybody have any questions about anything that I went over, or is there a counselor on that would like to add to something that I spoke about?
Katie, this is Cindy.
Yes.
My computer's acting really odd, so if I was doing some strange things with my computers and you could see it during that presentation, I'm very sorry, but my computer's freezing up at times. But do you happen to have the pre-ETS document to share with them, and then also the transition service activities page?
Yes,
You
I
could bring
do.
up
I
on
will
this?
put the links. I'll upload them into the chat for people.
Okay, because really, you know, in our TA guide, and if you were part of the fall IEP trainings, we talked a lot about the transition service and activities, and that was one of the resource documents for that training. The pre-ETS goes right alongside it, and and if you noticed, a lot of the things you write down for transition service activities, such as attend, catch the wave, you know, maybe job shadow, those are parts of the pre-ETS too. So just more of a reason to get that VR counselor involved to work together, because, you know, they can only enhance what you're already doing. So
yeah, it's a great partnership between the high schools and the voc rehab counselors. So make sure you're utilizing us, because we're happy to help. And yeah, just let us know what we can do to be of further assistance to you guys, because like I said, we're all doing the same thing. We're just calling it something a little different. So so yeah, if we can work together to get these students in good places to be successful after high school, I mean, that's everybody's goal. So we want to work together to get this done.
all right. Does it look like there's any questions? But Katie, you're going to remain on email,
Yep.
right?
Yep, I'm on.
Okay.
You guys are stuck with me for longer.
Okay, she's downloaded the pre-ETS and then also the transition service activities. You can kind of look at those if you're not sure exactly what was being talked about. So.
Yep, and my email is on there, so feel free to email me. I'll leave my number too. You can call me. I'm happy to help with whatever you may need.
All right, thanks.
right, so I'm going to introduce one of our local VR counselors, Ann Fortin. She has a knack for and enjoys working with transition-aged youth. She's been with the agency for 19 years, 3 years as a counselor aide and 16 years as a VR counselor.
Hey everybody, so I get to share with you the virtual job shadow, and I'm going to share the screen so you can see what I'm talking about. Here we go. All right, so everyone should be able to see a web page. It says virtual job shadow, and there's a virtual reality developer at the top.
Yep.
Jenny, give me a thumbs up if that's what you see. All right.
Yep. See it.
So, thank you. This is a new resource that we gained access to this summer, and it's a pretty complete resource for us. As vocational rehabilitation counselors, we don't really have a lot of in-depth access to South Dakota My Life, so there might be some things that we can do here that are very similar to what you maybe experience in that, but this is one that voc rehab counselors can dive into. We can set up accounts with the students that we work with and assign lessons and things like that. The basic format of the entire page kind of works through these top tabs. There's careers, colleges, and job exploration. Tools and administration would be something that only your voc rehab counselor, or at least the administration tab is the one that only your voc rehab counselor can access, but that's the side where we can then really assign specific tasks and things to students. But under the careers, probably the nicest piece of this website are the videos. They're very current. They're very brief, usually only about 2 to 3 minutes long, if that. They're easy to watch and very comprehensive. You can search by specific jobs or break it down into clusters. And what's nice is then when we choose a cluster, it then categorizes the specific jobs that fall under that specific career cluster. And then as we work through like an interest inventory with a student, and they kind of get some ideas as far as what are some core careers that they really want to explore. When you get into a specific job, there's a little pop quiz you can take to make sure that you're kind of understanding what was said in the video. There's additional videos that go with that job that are kind of frequently asked questions. And then as we work with the individual student in kind of exploring, because we can't really get out and explore as much as we like to, this is a great virtual way we can kind of break it down into different descriptions. Off to the left-hand side, you'll see required education links. Kind of gives us an idea as far as what licenses and certifications need to go there. We can search earnings, their future outlook, college links, and from all of this information, we can really put together a plan, a direction. It opens the door for a lot of conversation with the student specifically. If a student is more college bound and they just know that's the direction they want to go, we can start there by just discovering colleges. If they know a specific major or a specific school, the drop-down links off to the side really kind of make it a very user-friendly and easy way for us to explore a lot of different options. The same with the jobs link. This is all powered by Indeed, and so we can search jobs all from this one site, which is really pretty cool for us to not have to jump through a lot of different pages, but it just makes it all very user-friendly, and it's a easy way for us to then keep a lot of information in one location. Probably my favorite part of this is then these life skills videos. Katie mentioned a lot that we can talk about those soft skills, that growth mindset, that perspective as far as how do we deal with difficult things. The life skills videos are absolutely fabulous, and they keep adding more and more to them. They cover things from basic health and improving, making better health choices, to setting goals, to, you know, keeping a positive attitude at work, or simple budgeting perspectives. Again, the videos are just easy to watch. They're accessible, and it's been a really great resource for us to use since the summer, I think. So.
And you had mentioned one time that you can make individualized quizzes for the students, kind of?
Yes, we can, as a voc rehab counselor, you can create individual lessons on a specific topic.
Okay.
Or they have already created lessons on specific topics that take you through kind of a direction of flow. It's a basic lesson plan per se. And some of the topics are like understanding flexibility, citizenship, collaboration, working together, creative thinking, post-secondary goals, understanding grit, kind of really soft skill topics and directions that we end up having a lot of conversations with students as they're just trying to figure out what is that adult life gonna look like? What does it mean? And what are the skills that I need to have?
We do have a question, Anne, for you. How do we, oh, I guess Katie did answer it. Somebody asked, how do we get signed up for this? Is there a cost to the school? And as Katie said, there is no cost if the student is working with the VR.
Right.
And actually no work on the teacher's part either.
Yep, no work on the teacher's part. This is that point where we collaborate and work together. So.
And this then can be part of your pre-ETS type stuff that you're doing.
Absolutely. It counts for us for pre-ETS, and it would count for you as far as transition programming and planning.
If you're not working, like if a school is interested in purchasing seats for their students, there is a cost. But if they are potentially eligible for voc rehab or working with voc rehab, then there would be no cost at all for the student to participate in these programs.
And just get in contact with the VR counselor, right?
Correct. Yep. And just to add to what Anne was talking about, there's also a resume developer on there, a cover letter developer, or a way to develop a cover letter. I mean, yeah, it's a pretty cool program.
Yep, it's very, very comprehensive. So, and it would be possible for, like, if you had several students you wanted to create a plan for, and you wanted them all to kind of move through lessons at the same time, you could set up a group. The voc rehab counselor could lead a group session, which is fairly easy right now if everybody has access to Zoom and whatnot. We can assign lessons and kind of work through the topics and things like that. I have a couple of groups going right now that's what we're doing. Just kind of starting with those basic careers, and your interest is what the lesson is called. So.
Thank you very much, Anne. So we have next on our agenda.
All right, I am going to introduce Jessica Steinhardt and Cindy Biermann. Jessica's the VR counselor in the Mitchell and surrounding areas, and Cindy's the special education teacher in Mitchell. They both have a great working relationship and collaborate very well. Cindy really uses the services that VR has to offer, and in return, Jessica makes really great connections with the students, which is key when continuing the services after they graduate or age out. So, Jessica and Cindy.
I am Cindy Biermann. I am a first-year teacher with the new PACT program here. It's a transition program in Mitchell. I was the resource room teacher at the high school, and now I'm working with 18 to 21-year-olds. And we have a program called PACT. It's a program for adult community transition. I currently have 6 students enrolled, and every Wednesday, Jessica comes over and we go through the E-Track learning. All 6 of my students are enrolled in VR. So Jessica can explain a little more about E-Track.
Yeah, So the E-Track has 5 different courses. So the first course is just exploring careers. So like Mrs. Biermann said, when I come over on Wednesdays, I've been working with the students to go through that. So we've done like the ONET, My Next Move, like interest survey, and then building off of that. So within that course, we also explored some of their working styles and different activities that went along with that. The second course is about filling out paperwork and how to correctly do that. So we've spent some time with filling out applications and all of everything that is involved with that. And so what I like about the E-Track program is it is partially computer-based. So there are videos that you can go through. It includes some YouTube videos that the students can watch, but it also has activities for us to do. So it's interactive for the students in this class, and it has worked very well. So like I said, there's 5 courses: exploring a career, filling out the paperwork, starting the job search, and then it goes into interviewing for a job, evaluating and accepting a job offer, as well as keeping a job. So we're still working through the program ourselves. I've been coming over, I want to say maybe 9 weeks at this point, maybe not quite that long. But it does definitely take more time. We do have a smaller group, but just working through all the activities. And then our ultimate goal is for everyone to have like a skill-based resume, as well as a cover letter, and some different resources to be able to help them once they exit out of the 18 to 21 program.
Jessica, this is Cindy. Are you able to, or Katie able to bring up that so we can get a visual of it, or just to see the difference between?
Yep.
I'll stop sharing.
And while she's doing that, there is a cost for this, but again, if the student is working with folk rehab, it's completely free to them and to the school. There's no cost to the school. But VR does have to pay for the seat for the student to be on either one of these programs. So that's why there's no cost, because we pick up those costs.
And all 6 of my children are on VR. So they are receiving services.
So each course starts with a pre-assessment, and then there's also the quiz at the end, but then you work through everything within the course. But I will go, it's always tricky to remember how to get into the course. So we'll just jump into and the videos are animated, so I think some of the students enjoy that, and it talks about different things within the course as well, if it is going to load anyways.
While you're waiting on that, ladies, I just want to make sure that I'm understanding this right. So, I mean, as long as a student is a VR consumer, this is available, but it's the VR counselor who would be working with the student on this. Is that right? Versus the teacher. I mean, the teacher would basically just be kind of making that connection or helping get stuff set up, but it's the VR counselor who actually would be doing this with the student. Is that right?
Jessica goes through the program. I'm assisting her and walk around it, but she is the leader, the teacher, and on Wednesday afternoons in my room.
Okay.
This is also a program that can be done individualized too. So if you have only like one student or something, it's something that they could work through on their own. They might need more assistance with the activities though.
So Jessica, this is Bobby Joseph here from Watertown, and I do the 18 to 21 program here. Are the Watertown Voc Rehab counselors familiar with this online thing too? Do you know?
I'm going to defer that to Katie.
Yep, I'll answer that one. E-Track is relatively new to the Voc Rehab counselors. So So we're just getting it out there. But what I would do, Bobby Joe, is talk to them and then say that you've heard about this e-track and you would be very interested. And then they will contact me and I will work with them to get accounts set up. Because yeah, the e-track one is relatively new to us. So we're still trying to learn it ourselves and figure out how to best use it in the classroom. Jessica and Ann both have really taken initiatives with both of these programs to get them into the classroom. So yeah, we're getting it out there more. And I know Egley out in Rapid City and Ruth are working with a class out there now too with e-track. So yeah, counselors are starting to do it, but these are brand new to us. So we're still working on it. But yeah, contact your counselor and we'll see what we can do to get this rolling for you.
Great, thank you.
And I have a question. I think you might have mentioned it. How often do you go into the school to do this, or each week, or do you have a set time, or?
So far it's working for me to go over on Wednesdays. I go from 12 to 2. It's going to depend as long as the school continues to let me in. I know some schools are not allowing that. And I think Egley, I think you're on. I think you're doing it more virtually in when you're presenting the e-track. So, I mean, there are other options that we could do versus me personally going in. It's working best for me to be in person. Did you want me to play some of this or do you want to move on?
Well, no, I think this is a good view of it. I think that's good. Does anybody have any questions?
And just as a reminder, counselors aren't teachers, but we're doing the best we can. So, so whether it be teaching them virtually or in person, obviously counselors are more trained to do it one-on-one, but so be patient with us. We're learning it just, as much as you guys are learning to go virtual, we're learning all these new things too. So, but yeah, don't be afraid to ask and contact me or contact your counselor and we'll see what we can do to get this rolling with your school district.
One of the things we did a couple years ago, remember it's a couple years ago, that's back when I was teaching in the resource room and I had like 14, 15 kids and we would, Jessica and then Linda Holmes from Department of Labor came in and we divided the kids into 3 groups and one group would spend 20 minutes with Jessica and Linda on employability skills. Another group would work on communication skills with their speech teacher. And the third group would work on daily living skills with I and my student teacher at the time. So we would rotate the groups through, which was really a fun time for everybody because we just switched off every 20 minutes. And we covered employability, communication, and daily living.
Like the old team teaching.
Right.
Sounds fun. So from training, did I remember this right? Is e-track more for students maybe with lower intellect or not?
Yes and no. Some counselors are getting ready to use it with some adult clients that haven't been.
I mean, it looks fun. I mean,
but yeah, I mean, we have noticed that with virtual job shadow that sometimes the information might be a little higher level for some of the folks that we work with. But it's kind of comparing apples and oranges because the virtual job shadow really hones in on career exploration and school exploration, where that e-track really focuses on those 5 pre-ets, like the soft skills needed to be successfully employed and how to look for a job, how to apply for a job and things like that. So the e-track does more of the prepping for employment, where the virtual job shadow is more about exploring the different types of jobs that are all out there.
And I think the e-track too, it can be adapted because my kids are all really low. And so it goes a little slower, but if somebody has a lot of SLD kids or kids that are a little higher, they would just be able to go through the modules faster than we do. Wouldn't have to stop and explain things as much as we do.
Right.
And
Yep.
say
And you
it
got
could
to.
take anywhere between 20 to 30 hours for, you know, just depending on the student to get through all of the E-Track lessons. But some students might not need some of the lessons while others need all of them. I mean, we kind of adapted to meet the needs of the student and what they need to learn.
Okay.
This is Anne, and I'd like to say that or just make the point too, that the virtual job shadow the lessons in there are all adaptable. And, you know, there are some large sections that's pretty heavy in reading, things like that. All of that can be removed and taken out and just manipulated in a wide variety of ways. They're both really great resources, and it'd be nice to really be able to use them actively with all of our schools.
Cool. Sounds really good. So you guys are doing these virtually. Well, Jessica's not, you're going to school. But we had a question from a teacher. Have you guys been able to get out into the community, or even teachers? I mean, are you sending students out in the community, or VR counselors? Are you able to go into the schools? He wanted to discuss that.
I think that's been kind of up to the individual counselor and the schools. You know, so that would be a conversation that you need to have with your counselor on an individual basis, because what will work for one school and one counselor might not work for the second school and the second counselor. So, because there are some that are, and then there's some that aren't, that it's strictly virtual because of what is happening right now in this crazy time. So, so James, I would definitely have a conversation with your counselor and figure out what's going to work best for the two of you. Does that help?
And even some districts aren't letting any other people in.
Right.
I know
No
here in
outside
Aberdeen, they're very yep,
Mhm.
selective who they let in the doors these days.
Mhm.
All right, well,
Yeah,
thank
because as
you.
of right now, counselors aren't really allowed to let a lot of people in our offices for face-to-face meetings. So last resort, we've been having face-to-face meetings, but you know, even there, its preference is virtual, just to keep everybody as safe as possible during this time.
Great, thanks, Jess and Cindy and Anne and Katie. That was really good information. So,
Okay.
Beth?
Yes. All right. So I am going to turn it over to Marie Ivers. Marie's a special ed director for several schools in this area, or I shouldn't say this area, north of Sioux Falls. I can let her tell you which ones directly, but she had emailed me with a question here a week or two ago, and I said, well, you know what? That's a good question, and I would have to check with, you know, I would have to email some teachers and ask that question to see what they say. I said, or how about maybe we could just talk about that at our next roundup. So Marie, I'm going to let you pose the question that you sent to me.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, when I saw my name as presenting, I was like, wow, I asked a question and now I'm presenting. No, it is a question that has come up several times. So some of you are in charge of actual transition programs that are 8 to 21, where your whole programming revolves around that transition portion of the IEP. But what do you high school special ed teachers do with your high school academic heavy IEPs, where you also have transition as part of the IEP? How do you address all of your transition activities? We have such wonderful opportunities and different resources for transition, but where do you find the time to do that? And I've gotten a few answers. I've gotten answers regarding maybe we schedule a time during the day and we call that actual transition class and we get credit for it, or they do it during the summer, or I'm just trying to get input from everybody on how they're scheduling those transition services. Do you put it in service time and count it as special ed time? I've heard some people do that as well. And I just would like some feedback from everybody on how you address the transition training or education time activities in your IEPs.
So feel free to put it in the chat, to unmute and speak.
And you know, this is really one of the reasons that we started these roundups, is to just have conversation. I mean, we try to have a few topics to talk about just in case nobody wants to talk, but this is an opportunity for you guys to just, you know, go back and forth. There's nobody from the state on this call, and there, I don't know that if there is a right or wrong way. I mean, I guess Cindy, Jenny, I guess I don't know if Dave or Dan is on, but if you guys have a feeling or a thought on that, please share too.
You know, my thoughts on it is, and like you said, Marie, I was in the classroom for 23 years prior to this job. And yeah, for those students that were with me all day, we could do transition stuff all day long and get that filled in. But those students with learning disabilities, or those students that were in the general ed classroom curriculum, I mean, they needed those courses to meet their measurable post-secondary goals if they're going to go to college, and they needed the credits. So when do you find the time to do it? It's a very legit question, I think. You know, my one thought was running through my head, maybe for some of these VR programs, you know, maybe a student could meet with a VR counselor after school, if they would, you know, and meet some transition activities through these programs too. Who's got better ideas?
Typically developing high school kid, that turns into a punishment if we make them stay after
You're
school.
exactly right. Yep. Yeah.
But it could be that they meet with the counselor at their office
Right.
over the summer. And now with virtual being so prevalent, it could be a virtual meeting that so they're at home, but maybe they could meet with their counselor and they could be working on one of the activities that we talked about today. You know, and if the teacher could have a conversation with the counselor to figure out what activities that they did, and maybe that could be something that met one of the goals on the IEP that the teacher could use. I don't know, I'm not the IEP expert by any means. But you know, like I said, there's so many of the same services that we're all providing. So if we coordinate better, there would be a great, I mean, you know, we're here. We're required to work with these students too. So, I mean, use the counselor however we can be used.
So we lately have been talking about trying to get the most bang for our buck. So all of those kids 16 and over have to have transition services on their IEP. If we have a class in the resource room, we have to put it in the services area because it's not with general ed students. But then we can call it and get it cleared through the state as a transition class and give credit for it. So they get credit for it. It is a class. Unfortunately, it has to be called special education unless you can bring in general ed kids. But it gives a devoted time of the day consistently throughout the week, whether it's an everyday class or an every other day class, that you can work on transition activities. Does anybody else do that?
For them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know Webster School District in the past had done that, had written about, had gone to their school board, got permission for that, and had a transition class. That teacher is no longer there now, but.
Last year, we have some kids that we have in just alternative program, and I had a couple of the regular kids in my class with that group that, you know, and I don't know if you guys have like a careers class that you teach in the general ed too. Well, I had like 5 boys in my room, and 4 out of the 5 were sped, but I did have one regular ed kid in there who was in kind of our alt learning program. And, you know, we went through a lot of those, you know, it was perfect for the careers anyway, because it was their careers class. We did a lot of job skills. We did a lot of talking about soft skills. I had the Department of Labor come in at that point in time and do their A game with them and stuff. It worked really.
Well, I appreciate
I can't tell you specific school. Well, if I thought about it long enough, I could, Marie, but I know I've talked to teachers who have had a class. Now they might have it just one semester, or they might have it 1 year and then not the next because they don't have enough students. You know, it's like that. I've heard teachers say, well, we have the class, but we do it like every other year because we only have a few, which I would imagine, you know, some of your schools are small like that too, are not going to have a lot of students, but there's certainly a number of different ways that it can be done, I think.
So some of you like Rhonda or Deb or some of the teachers I know that have been teaching for a while, how do you get the transition service activities done for your students who aren't with you all day long? Or anybody else? I'd just be curious. Nobody wants to talk today.
You know, and I was on a training last week where they were talking about how different schools down in Florida set up, they're called transition clubs. And part of the requirement is to have students with disabilities and students without disabilities be part of this. And they said they never had any problems getting students with without disabilities to sign up because they're wanting the same information. They want to know how to explore for careers. They want to know how to research different schools to figure out what's going to be the best bet for them. You know, maybe instead of calling it like a transition class, could you call it like a career class where they utilize the South Dakota My Life or the programs that we talked about today as and doing it that way? I don't know. I'm just throwing out an idea.
And that's what we did last year with my class.
Katie, I think that's a wonderful idea. The reason we kind of looked at naming it transition is we have to cover not only careers, but independent living and community experiences and things like that. So I just think the biggest bang for our buck is to label that class so they get it for credit and change the name of that class each semester so you can still get elective credit and you've got a devoted period of time every single week to do it.
That would probably be the most efficient way, I guess.
Oops, sorry, Cindy. I was going to say they were doing that down in that the transition clubs down in Florida where they like they would go on class field trips out in the community to learn more about what the resources that were available within the community, or even just not even necessarily resources, but maybe going to one of the museums or a learning, you know, or doing a college day where they all went to the local VOTEC to learn about, you know, the application process, talking to the FAFSA people and just being on campus and having that sort of day. That's what they do in those transition clubs. Learning how to use public transportation. They kind of did a mentoring where they would pair up a student with a disability with a student that didn't have a disability. And then the student without would then train the one with on how to use the public transportation, how to read the bus schedule and how to pay and different things like that. I mean, there was some great opportunities, and I think there was a handout that I could share with you, Marie, if you're interested. Just shoot me an email and I can send you the handout that I got from that training because there was a lot of great information there.
That sounds good. I know I'm not the only one with this question. Seems like every time we go to any kind of a conference, that's the biggest question that I get is, when do your teachers teach these transition activities and skills? We have tons of resources and wonderful tools. It's just we are short on time.
And it's nice, I think, to have a group of students together too, to do it together rather than just individual. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I know I can remember at least one school, and I want to say two in the last, you know, several years when I've been at different schools, where the teacher has said they've had a class, whether it's whatever it's called, transition or whatever it is. But I remember one teacher in particular who said it was funny because so she's got these kids in her room for this class, but she also had a couple other kids that were just kind of in that area, you know, working on something just on their own. They weren't really in that class, but they kept hearing and seeing what was going on. And I mean, they would have guest speakers come in and talk to the, you know, students and stuff. And pretty soon, all these other students who were in the area were going, they came up to her, the teacher, and said, well, what is this? You know, what is this class? And can I get in it? You know, I'd like to be in it. So it probably, and I'm not a teacher. I've never been in the school district. I don't know how it works with it being labeled, if it's a special education class or a general ed class. But I think if you have just even one general ed student, that works, right, Trish?
It did in my room. We checked into it and they said, yeah, as long as you include that. And Marie, I did life skills in that careers class right along with it, because I'm sorry, life skills goes right along with careers.
Yep.
So I really filled it right in with it. So.
Okay.
They also said that a great way to get students excited about it was that they'd have really cool t-shirts. So then the students would be like, oh, I want one of those t-shirts. How do I get one? And then they said, well, join the club. And then that's how they just kind of got them all excited about it. And then they went from there. And they treated it just like any other club that the school has, whether it's a drama club or whatever it was. Like they had the same thing where they might have to do fundraising to get funds for it to continue and to do their activities and things like that.
Well, thank you everybody for the input.
Yes, and Cindy had commented in the chat that at Mitchell, they used to have a class called General Single Living, which covered a lot of things for both, I mean, for all kids. So yeah, that would just be my next thought is whatever can be done, that's being done in the general ed that kind of fits that, have it, you know, but I like your idea of a class.
Well, in
all,
my group tried the regular careers and it was too big of a class. It just didn't work for them. And so we ended up, this basically was a repeat of their careers class. Okay. And the smaller group worked well. They were much more involved. They actually took ownership in what they were doing. So it worked much better. So.
Very cool. All right. And feel free if anybody has any ideas after, you know, the meeting, send them Marie's way, marie.ivers@k12.st.us. We'll share. Oh, okie. Oh, my computer today is just crazy. So, does anybody have anything to add to the topics that we talked about today? Or does anybody have any other questions that they would like for the group to discuss?
Or does anyone have any topics, suggestions for future roundups? Or have we decided if we're doing future roundups, Cindy?
Yep, next month.
Oh, we are doing another one. Okay.
And next month, Beth will be on. Beth Schultz from State Special Ed. She was going to be on this month to talk about graduation accommodations and that kind of thing, but she had a conflict with another important meeting. So I said, well, that'll just be on the agenda for next month, which is a big topic that a lot of people have been talking about. Some things that we've got going on as a project is our Let's Talk About Work. We're doing what you said on the survey is something virtual that'll be on our website. We're looking at some students are doing scenarios for us, and adult agencies will be providing info on what they can do to help those students. A panel of 3, 4, 5 employers, and then a hands-on activity relating to employment, or a virtual activity, I should say. So we will let you know when that's all up and running on our website. Our Youth Leadership Forum applications, the team leader, assistant leader are due November 20th. And those generally are older students that have been to YLF. are maybe going to college in their last few years of high school that apply. And I mean, they work hard. They get paid, but they work hard from 7 in the morning till maybe 11:30, 12 at night. So it's pretty strenuous day, but it's a lot of fun. And then the high school delegate applications are due the 18th of December. We're planning to have it typically on campus at Northern the first week in June or whenever. We'll see what happens. Our teacher roundup next month will be November 24th. Note that that's Tuesday instead of Wednesday because of Turkey Day. And then something I wanted to mention, we have been having a virtual YLF gathering Zoom style for any and all individuals that have been to YLF in the past. We had one the end of September, just Monday night. And I mean, we had delegates on there from 2003 to 2019. We're doing some activities, getting different speakers, and so hopefully the attendance starts expanding for that. But if you have a student that's attended YLF, please mention this to them. We have a YLF of South Dakota Facebook page where all the information is on. But if they're not a Facebook person, you know, whatever, we surely can send you the information and the link on that to share with them. So just reach out to a liaison if you have a student of yours, a former YLFer that would like to attend, but doesn't, you know, have Facebook. So I found this and I thought this was so perfect for all of you. No, son, your teacher doesn't want a handmade crayon wreath with some, when posted on Pinterest. She wants a gift card to a place with happy hour. Right, Wade? That's what you sounded like when you came on. You were so tired. But
I didn't say that.
no, I know you didn't say it. But we thank you guys all a lot for just your flexibility and your patience and whatever you're doing to make this work for yourself and your high school students. You deserve a big hand applause, clap, whatever. You're doing a great job. Transition liaisons are here to answer any questions you may have or dig up some resources for you. So please do reach out to us. Does anybody have anything? Oh, there's some chats here. Okay. Jenny put a link on for the DOE Special Ed Transition website where we send out information. Okay. Bev, Jenny, you have anything?
I don't think so. I just was going to point out that yes, if you are not on the statewide special education listserv, I would highly recommend it. I mean, you may get things twice. You would probably get things twice because we often, or almost always, us liaisons also will send it out to our individual teacher listserv. But I always feel it's better to get something twice than not at all, and you know, not know about it. So good information that comes out on that.
All right, well, if nothing else, it is 3:58. Thanks a lot to Jessica and Cindy and Katie and Marie and Ann for sharing today also. It's what this is about. So thank you and hope to see some of you or all of you next month.
It's good to see you all. Take care.
Yep.
Thanks. Bye.
Yep, bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.